All right, welcome back to another episode of the Kitchen Table Podcast where business gets done. I'm your host, Ken Baden, and today we are here with Peter Roth from SolarWise. Am I saying
Yes,
that
sir.
right? That's
Yeah,
I don't
you
know
are.
why I said like SolarWise question mark. I'm Ron
Yeah,
Burgundy.
that's exclamation point solar wise.
Right, SolarWise.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
Uh, well, first of all, Peter, we were talking before the show started, like, trying to get familiar like we always do. And then it's like, yeah, I mostly specialize in like solar and roofing. I'm like, this is going to be, it's going to be a piece of cake. I also have a solar and roofing company. What do you know? So this will be super easy. But I'm really excited to have you on because of that. I saw the solar background, love talking solar. I love that it's kind of back on the rise. But before all of that, how are you doing today? How are you? How's everything?
I'm awesome. I just cleaned up a pile of dog shit, so my day's off to a great start.
That's my Sunday
Yeah.
morning
And then
routine, man.
I walked out of my office to go grab something. I'm like, that doesn't smell right at all. And so that's how my last
Oh,
30
was it in
was.
your
That's why I was
house?
that's why I was 2 minutes late to this. Was because
Oh, well, that's lovely.
yeah,
Shit
that's a great
happens,
way to
right? Forrest Gump.
start your day. Yeah.
Shit happens. What?
Literally.
Shit? Yep. Was that in your house, by the way? I'm
Yes.
assuming
Oh,
you own
of
dogs, so
course.
hopefully it wasn't someone else's
It
dog
wasn't just
shit.
some random
Okay.
stray that just rolled in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm a big dog lover, even though they do shit like that. No pun
Okay.
intended.
Yeah.
But two
I get
German
it.
shepherds. One's a puppy, who's a terror, and then the other one is a big, massive, scary looking, just total love bug. As long as you don't try to shake my hand, because then he actually doesn't. He doesn't like that. But I spend my Sundays cleaning up dog shit as well, so I can
Well,
relate.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, we know how it goes. Yeah, that's what you do for the love of animals.
that's
You
it,
clean
man.
up their
That's what we
crap,
do,
right?
dude.
Yeah.
Every Sunday, like clockwork, cleaning up dog poop.
Mm.
Lots, and they're big, so it's not. It's a whole lot. So dog shit aside, everything else is
Oh, I
going
thought this whole
well.
podcast was going to be about that.
Yeah. I
Oh, I
mean, we
should
could
probably
do
go
that.
then.
We could.
Yeah.
That would be a new lane we haven't gone down. We've talked
Yeah,
about
I
solar and
thought that
roofing a
was the.
lot.
Yeah, I really thought that was the agenda for the day. So
I've actually had
I
Duke
got
on
nothing
the
else to
show.
talk about. Well,
I'm sure that our audience will actually will appreciate that we stick with the program, though. And that thing is a lot of our listeners are business owners, C-suite folks that are involved in the remodeling industry. So I actually am curious. Well, first and foremost, let's talk about what you do with SolarWise. But before we do that, traditionally, I love to hear about kind of how you got into, solar roofing, exactly what you do now. I know you did the solar roofing game and then got into more like call center stuff, but take us through that progression. How'd you get to where you're at?
I got sued. I swear to God, I got sued into this business. It was the weirdest. I know it's a straight answer or
Now
straight.
we got to know the story. So, I mean,
I'll clarify. Yeah, I got lost. I got sued my way into this space. I started off as so I started off as a business owner when I was 24 years old. Actually, probably even 22.
wow.
It failed, but that was my first stab at entrepreneurialism. I knew right away out of college that I wasn't cut out to work for other people. I was that guy that like I had like one corporate job, and I was the guy that if ever a stack of paper and staples and pens went missing, it was people always pointing at me. I just was not cut out for the workforce. I was the first guy to get fired. So I was like, I need to start my own business right away.
I
I don't
better
care what
start
I
my
do.
own because I'm
I'll
gonna be
clean
fired everywhere
toilets
else.
if I have to. I don't care what it is. I got to start my own business. I knew that right away. I'm Russian and I'm Jewish, and so my parents are immigrants, and so it was just kind of in the air. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I started my own company when I was pretty young. I was 22. I'm now 49. So the majority of my life has been spent,
Oh, wow.
running businesses. Not always successfully by any stretch.
That's how it goes, though, man. That's how we get successful is by
Of course.
failing forward, right? But
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Fail fast, fail often, I guess.
that's right. That's right. Well, I can't remember the quote, but it was a gentleman that was talking. He's talking about how it was a very successful guy that I follow, and he was like, I think the biggest thing that I can attribute my success to is by the time, you or these high level folks have, thought of all the moves and ways and planned it all out. I've failed 3 times and found a better way to do it before
I
you've
like
even
that.
started. Before you've even started, I've failed 3 times and found a better way to do it, better and faster. So I love that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think once, not every business is cheap to start up. I recognize that. But I do think that most, savvy business owners find a way to get started in a business for a very minimal investment. So like once you've done it enough times, it becomes somewhat repetitive and formulaic. So it's not this big deal. Like I'm sure now when you have an idea, it takes you days or minutes sometimes to implement it, as opposed to like you sitting here scratching your head for a month and talking about it, like
Yeah.
do it because
Sometimes a little too fast, perhaps, to
yeah,
some
yeah,
of my
but
teammates.
that's the point you just made, is that too fast is the better way to go, because it's like,
True.
what's the old ready, fire, aim,
Yes. Ready,
right?
fire, aim.
There you go, right? Just go. Like figure it out as you go. Just
That
go.
is entrepreneurialism in a nutshell. Ready, fire, aim. Go.
Ready,
Figure
fire,
it
aim.
out. You
Yeah.
know.
I love that
But
book. It could have been an article, right?
yes.
Most business books should just be articles.
Right. I was gonna say that's probably most of them, but
Yeah, it's frustrating how many books that I've read. I'm like, why did I? God, I could that should have been a blog post at
well,
most.
that's a whole nother lane, like all the
Yeah,
things that we get wrapped up into, right? Like the morning routines and stuff. But reading is super, super important. And I
yeah.
would attribute that to a lot of my knowledge base, obviously, because they do tend to hide things like, you know, good, valuable information in those things they call books. It's
Mhm.
weird. So
Well,
if you
now
read some, you might get better.
I think it was Hormozy that was talking about like modern books now from the last probably 10, 15 years have become so worthless because all of them are just a pitch fest for some coaching program.
Yep.
So it's like if you're going to read books from like 15 years ago and earlier, because at least
Think
there
and
was no
Grow
such thing as like,
Rich,
yeah, there weren't
Power of Positive
coaching
Thinking.
programs didn't exist back then. So they were
Nope.
actually like giving across all of the value in the book itself and not using it as just a little bait and switch thing to be like, and if you want more, click on this website,
Right,
sign
right,
up for my
right. Or I just
997
had
coaching.
ChatGPT write this for me so I could use it as an excuse to go on a podcast and build a brand and pretend to be a coach. Trust
Mhm.
me, I've spent a lot of money anyhow. We won't
Dude,
even go down that
I know
lane
four
yet.
people who are authors now. I'm like, you're not an author.
You're not an author.
You're not an author.
No, no. It's my goal this year to write a book simply because my father always said I should, but that's more of a background thing for me. And I don't know. I know you don't because, we met each other in a unique way. But a lot of people that come on my show do know me, do know my background, and all my listeners do. I'm in recovery. It was a complete and utter shit show years and years and years ago where I came from the absolute pits and depths of hell. So when I say write a book, actually it'd be more like on that. You know what I mean? My dad's actually wanted me to for some time. But the deal I made with myself was going to write a book this year, regardless. And I did think about writing one, and I do have one like in the queue for business.
Mhm.
But I feel like it's been so watered down, dude, because I'm in so many groups, business groups, that I know you could do it in 30 days. I know you could. Chat
Mhm.
GPT, it's nothing to get a book published anymore. Go get all your buddies and pals when as soon as it's launched to spend a few cents or whatever the hell it is to purchase the digital copies of it, and there you go. You've got a number one bestseller in your respective niche or whatever the hell it is, and now you're a
Mhm.
number one best-selling author of whatever
Mhm.
nonsense that you didn't even probably write because ChatGPT did. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and not
Okay.
to take anything from your free four pals, but going
No,
back to how you
no.
got started and
Yeah.
being sued, I'm
So
more
so
interested
sued.
in
Yeah,
that.
sued. So okay, so here's the quick version. I'll try to make it entertaining for listeners so I don't bore anyone. But so I started off in the cigar business. That was like my first real business out of college. I opened up a cigar kiosk and then turned that into four different retail stores and then turned that into like this really cool cigar bar that was featured in Cigar Aficionado. And then while I was in that cigar bar, it was in like a kind of like a glorified strip mall type thing, and I had neighbors above and to the side of me, and smoke was always seeping through little spaces and getting into the neighbors' places. And so landlords being landlords, they don't negotiate, they don't talk, they don't even show up for anything. They just call up lawyers right away, right? They don't even bother to show up and talk to me. They just stuck lawyers on it. And so they tried to sue me for nuisance. They called it smoke nuisance. And so it wasn't even entirely my fault. The landlord hadn't done his job to seal up the spaces, to prepare the neighbors for having a smoking neighbor coming into the space. That was the landlord's job. They didn't do their work, so they sued me. So I won both lawsuits. In the process of winning both lawsuits, they also had to pay me back my attorney's fees. So that they got really pissed about that. But nonetheless, the judge said, he's like, it's not your fault, but you still do need to take some measures to help mitigate the smoke. So go call a commercial HVAC company and get some quotes to start putting in some high level filtration stuff. And so I did. And I got royally ripped off because
Mm.
commercial HVAC companies, when they saw a little guy like me, they just, they were just chomping at the bits to
Yeah.
like gouge the hell out of me, and they did because they also knew that my back was up against a wall because I didn't really have much of a choice but to pay them the money or face some serious issues with the with this judge. So I lost probably $100,000+ with these commercial HVAC companies. Lo and behold,
Oh my
and
God.
they were useless. They were completely useless. They didn't offer any advice or help or anything like that. They just overcharged me for a bunch of equipment I didn't even need that didn't even solve the problem. So lo and behold, I don't even know how I ended up getting connected with this guy who was not some big commercial guy. He was just some local dude who just, really knew HVAC really, really well. He was like a MacGyver. He just knew everything, you know. He and I ended up becoming like really, really like best friends. He and I became basically best friends. He gave me all the guidance that I need. He did 99% of the work himself, and he did it all for Bud Light. Like I swear to God, he
Oh
literally
hell yeah.
he
That's
didn't
a
even
good
want money.
friend.
He's like, just give me Bud Light. And I was like, you sure? Like, I'd rather pay you. He's like, no, I want Bud Light. It's like, okay, that's fine. Fair deal. So basically, we
Done.
became best friends for over a bar tab. So fast forward, the business was running itself. I was pretty uninvolved at that point, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, it looks like you've got time. I've got time. Do you want to start an HVAC company with me? I'll be the wrench turner. I'll be the blue collar side of it. You be the white collar side of it. You figure out the marketing and sales, and I'll do everything else." I was like,
Mm.
took me a while to agree to it, but eventually I did. So lo and behold, we started an HVAC company, and it started going really, really well. Like it was doing really well. It was growing really quickly, and I was really excited about it. And to this day, I miss that business a ton. Like I would love to get back into HVAC. He had some major health issues. The guy literally had 3 heart attacks like in a row, like in the course of like several months.
Mm.
So needless to say, we had to get out of that business pretty fast. So we got out of that business. And while I could see the writing kind of on the wall that I could kind of see that this business was going to come to an end here pretty quickly, I needed to kind of, get into something new pretty quickly. And through another friend, solar just kind of came the thing. That's another story, but it just kind of became the thing. And so I started kind of getting into solar. And I also liked it because at the same time, I was looking for something else to sell to homeowners because I was the one who was kind of leading up the sales arm of this company and training the other sales guys that we were bringing on. And that was doing really well. But I noticed that I was in these homes selling these expensive systems to homeowners, and they would trust me, and we would develop this really great relationship. And I was like, shit, if I had something else to sell them, they'd buy it. But I got nothing else to sell. I'm out of things to sell. Like, what else can I do? And so I was looking for something else to sell that didn't necessarily involve me having to do the actual labor. And solar was perfect because it was one of those things that is easily outsourced to some other company. So I could just become a sales guy and outsource all the work to some other installer.
Mhm.
So that's how quickly I got into solar. Now, when I got into solar, I also saw that there was this huge, as I started digging into solar, I saw that how weird it was that like no one is given leads, right? Unlike HVAC, unlike roofing, where you pretty much don't even need to worry about leads because you've already got a pre-existing book of leads in your pipeline that you can just resell things to. That doesn't exist in solar. Solar is a one and done thing. You sell solar to someone once and then you never hear from them ever again. And I was like, well, that's a shitty business model. But I'm like, but nonetheless, no one is getting leads. So like no one who's selling, so everyone's an independent contractor. Everyone's just a consultant basically. No one actually
Yes.
works W-2 for anybody anymore. So I was like, and they're all sort of left to their own whims to go get leads, to go get deals. And I was like, this is a broken system. This really sucks. So I was like, I bet you like there's probably a lot of opportunity here on the lead gen side of this game. And so that was immediately when I realized I'm like, I got to do the lead gen side of this. I need to learn how to do the sales. So I started doing both. So I kind of built a team. I built a sales org. And at the same time, I was starting to develop different ways of, creating leads. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was completely new to the whole thing. I took what I knew from HVAC, which didn't really apply to solar. Thought it did, but it didn't. And then had to slowly kind of start learning different ways of generating leads in the solar space and failed at most of them. Like anything else, I sucked at it. It failed at most things until I didn't. Just like everything else, right? You suck until you don't. And so that's what I did is I sucked at it for a long time until I stopped sucking at it. And that took a while. and I just tried everything. I tried all different types of all the usual channels, all the typical, the Facebooks, the YouTubes, the Google PPCs, and the thing that and aged solar leads, and the thing that started clicking for me was aged solar leads, calling them. And then I
Hmm.
started realizing, okay, wait a minute, this is basically a call center. And then I started kind of expanding, slowly started growing the call center side of things and realized, wait, this is actually kind of working, kind of, sort of. I failed at that too. Don't get me wrong. I failed a lot of things. So I failed at that twice, shut it down twice. And then the third time around was when it started finally working because I learned enough. I'd fallen down enough times, learned what not to do, that on that third time around, it finally started clicking. It's embarrassing if I were to tell you how much I lost. It's a lot.
Well,
It's a
I
big
would
number.
hope. I'm hope. I would hope, if nothing else, that you've. I'm sure you recouped that though.
Barely. Yes,
Yeah.
finally. It took a
Okay. Okay.
long ass
I was
time.
going. I hope so. He's like,
It took a
yeah.
hell of a long time. But
Yeah.
yes, I did. So now,
Well.
like that's usually now when I'm talking to prospective clients, I'm usually just telling them my nightmare of a story. I'm
Yeah.
usually just telling them like what a nightmare it was for me and that I don't want you to go through it.
Mm.
Because I know that this works, but it takes a really, yeah, but it's hard to get it to work.
It's a
And so
lot of time,
that's
effort,
my
energy,
promise
and
to you.
money. Right. So,
The
like,
money
hey,
and
I'll save
psychological
you that.
pain. And that's my thing. And that's usually my story. It's like I just don't want this to happen to you. I know it can work, but I also know how easy it is to fail. And that's what I can promise you that at least I can prevent that pain for you is that I can skip you to the front of the line. I can tell you what not to do really quickly now.
So you're more focused now. Now that we've got the gist of kind of how you got into
Yeah.
solar, HVAC, and finding yourselves just it sounds like just need for yourself to generate leads, and then finding out that you have figured out like this seems to be the thing. Because you're right, for retail, roofing, solar, any of those things, the number one on the retail side, at any rate, the number one I need in all of those industries are just leads. I mean, that's the thing, right? That's the thing
Bingo.
that everybody needs, that everybody is trying to find a better way to do it,
Mhm.
a more efficient way to do it, a more cost efficient way to do it. And, that it's so hard these days too, with so many options to like, everybody, oh, hey, I'm going to get you these leads. So, it's excellent we have you on here to really kind of, get that perspective from you, especially on the call center side, because that's a different, it's a different angle. Especially, I know it can be very successful. In fact, I would argue, for me, I've done this a few times now myself, right? This is actually the third company in this model, the roofing, the remodeling model, because it's not just roofing. Like we're actually launching our newest vertical on the company that I own, in Potomac Customer Modeling, to add retail back in. But when I say retail, I mean a traditional buy setter closer model, right?
Mhm.
So what I preach constantly, which I also have a consulting company in Baden Consulting, and that company really focuses on like instilling those verticals into businesses that don't know how. Not so much call center or anything like that, actually more from the sales side. The selling systems, selling metrics, how to recruit, things like that, sustain culture, sales systems, sales methodologies, whatever, right? But one thing I've preached for a long time is you need that sustainable in-house source for leads. And whether that's canvassing or call center or both, in my opinion, when you're first getting started, that's you got to have, because SEO takes time, money.
And it's completely unreliable.
Yeah.
It's totally unreliable. It's the best, without question. It's the best. Like not even close. It's the best. Nothing comes close to organic inbound SEO. It's the best. It's also the one thing you have zero control over. You
And you're
can't
going to
pay
take
your
a
way to
lot
the
of
top of
time.
Google. You can't do
Yeah.
anything. It's impossible. It's the best, but it's also impossible to scale and it's impossible to control. So that's why I always tell people continue focusing on SEO. Do everything that you can to build that up. It's going to take years and it may never go anywhere. Just be
Yeah.
prepared for the fact that it may never go anywhere. But keep going, keep stabbing at it because the more you do better at that, or the more you improve at that, the better your leads. You'll never get as good of a quality leads as organic inbound SEO, but it's completely uncontrollable. It's out of your control. So you have to do other things concurrently.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I mean, you just need that branding element, in my opinion. I mean, you could, I don't know, have some really crafty SEO folks behind you, but that branding takes so much time to garner well, the brand one needs to then have the marketing aspect, because branding and marketing are two different things. The marketing aspect catch up, which is where you start getting leads from the results of that branding. Whether so, at any rate, you got to have something where it's like I turn this phone on, or I call this batch of leads wherever I got it from, or I send this canvasser out, and the end of today, I should have some results, right? And so,
Mhm.
quantifiable, measurable results. So you've really, and ironically, I live in the canvassing world, whereas we definitely have had a call center and we do call center. I just have a lot more experience in canvassing the field, so I've kind
Sure.
of on the other end of that spectrum. But so what you focus on now, and correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, is you've kind of like figured that out for yourself, and then as one, as we do, especially anybody that's an entrepreneur, well, I learned this. I'm gonna write down what I learned, and now I'm gonna offer it to other people because we're
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, so it's smart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so. Look, here's why I love. People don't ask the question often enough, like why call center? Like, what is it that's special about it, right? Because, look, the fact of the matter is, anything can work, right? Anything can work. There is no bad form of marketing. There are better and worse ones for sure, but there's nothing that doesn't work. Facebook works, YouTube works, PPC works. All of them have their downfalls, and you just need to be aware of what they are. But part of the reason why I love call centers so much for most businesses, especially businesses that are in a saturated industry, think roofing, think solar, right? Extremely saturated market spaces. What I love so much about it is what I don't love about Facebook. So I think I usually start the conversation there. Here's what I don't like about Facebook, because that's where most people think of when they think of
Right.
like getting
Yep.
into paid marketing, is they think Facebook, which makes sense, right? Because it's relatively inexpensive and the barrier to entry is pretty minimal, which is also exactly the problem.
Yeah.
Anything that's easy to get into is going to get saturated overnight, right? So that's exactly the problem. And the problem when it comes to like Facebook or really any form of simple paid marketing, Facebook, YouTube, PPC, all that stuff, the problem with it is that it becomes so saturated so quickly that then you become a victim to those conditions. And those
Mhm.
conditions specifically are market saturation and ad fatigue. And
Mhm.
companies will start getting into Facebook, like solar or roofing, and the problem is that everyone has the same message. With solar, it's all the same messaging. It's like, save money on your bill, no money out of pocket, blah blah blah. Roofing is the same, right? So there's only so many things that you can say to stand out, meaning there really actually is nothing left that you can say to stand out because everyone's already said it before and everyone's
Right.
already heard it. So there's nothing unique that anyone can really say. So there's no unique differentiator. So you completely blend in. So now you're up against the really, really stiff competition against other people who are probably better, faster, and stronger than you are in some capacity or multiple capacities. So now you're up against them, competing against a very limited set of eyeballs, right? There's not an unlimited amount of eyeballs in anyone's marketplace. So now the problem becomes, how the hell do you write? And in Facebook, as you know, you have to have videos. You can't expect a static image to work for you. That's just very rarely does. So it's got to be a video. Well, now you got to become a videographer, and no one is that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you got to go hire a videographer. That's expensive as shit. So now you go hire a videographer in your local area. Good luck finding one that isn't going to rip you off and someone that actually knows what they're doing. And what are
Mhm.
the odds of them actually going to be able what are the odds of them having the ability to actually write something creative for you that actually will stand out from the competition? I'll just tell you, it's slim to none.
Right. None.
And you want to know the proof? It's like watch the Super Bowl, right? The Super Bowl is the Super Bowl of football, but also the Super Bowl of the ad world,
Yeah.
right?
Super Bowl
And you want
advertising.
Yep. And then I watched this compilation video on YouTube of every single ad that was aired on the Super Bowl this year. And there was quite a few. It was a lot more than I thought. It was like a 20-minute long compilation. And out of the 20 minutes of back-to-back ads, I swear to God, only two of them jumped out at me as actually kind of entertaining and original. Out of
Wow.
probably 30. Two out of 30. The rest I were like totally forgettable, completely unmemorable, completely bland and like blah. And I was like, so wait a minute, let me get this straight. You guys spent tens of millions of dollars, hired the best Madison Avenue ad agencies to write the best, to get the best geniuses on the planet to create these videos for you, and even they couldn't do it.
Right.
So
It's
what the fuck chance do you and I have?
yeah.
Zero. Zero. I'll tell you, zero. So if they can't do it, if people with tens of million dollar ad budgets can't do it, what the hell chance do you have? So why are we even barking up that tree? It's a mistake, right? And so that's one thing that I realized very, very quickly is that this is just this model is extremely difficult to succeed at because of those limitations. So now let's say you get lucky. Let's say you happen to find someone ridiculously creative, which you won't, but let's just say you do. You find someone stupid creative who actually does manage to create a really cool ad for you. It's going to hit ad fatigue soon enough. It will eventually. Nothing lasts forever. Every ad will hit a wall. Every ad will hit what's called ad fatigue. If you don't know what it is, it just means the audience is sick and tired of seeing your ad because it's already aired enough times that they're just worn out of seeing it. That's called ad fatigue. It will happen. It's inevitable. It always does. It could take, if you're lucky, maybe a year. Maybe you'll get a whole year out of one ad, but that's extremely unlikely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Usually it's more like 2, 4, maybe 5 months, maybe. Okay, so now what are your odds of doing it again? What are your odds of pulling another rabbit out of this hat one more time? And how many times are you going to get lucky with that?
Yeah, how many times you're going to
How many
get
times are you going to get
creative?
lucky?
You're absolutely right. I mean, the call center and canvassing, that's my whole point is like you have to have that thing that can churn that crap out on a daily basis. Like not like
And
literally, like what is the expectation? And that's what I was getting ready to say. And my ADHD was like chomping at the bit to make sure I didn't forget this. But the thing I love most about call center or canvassing or something like what you provide is you can literally quantify everything. Everything. Hey, if I have
you,
X amount of bodies, I can produce on average. Okay, prospective client. Yeah. Okay. If you pay me A, then I have package B and C, but generally I can provide you with 5 bodies that can produce X amount of calls a day on average that should yield X amount of conversations that should result in X amount of closed opportunities that should result in X amount of demoed leads, which should result in X amount of sales. And it's just like that simple, man.
But
Um,
what's even better? Maybe you haven't clicked on it yet. What's even better is that you're not subjected to those same forces working against you that Facebook is stuck with. You're not having to worry about constantly coming up with something brilliant and
yeah.
creative, and then dealing with the saturation point, at which point it gets fizzled out. You're not facing any of those limitations. You get to scale. You can scale canvassers as much as you just go hire more people. You don't have to think of something new to say every single time. If your call center's working, cool, go hire more people
Right.
and just keep doing it. You're not stuck with those same limitations. It's easy to scale. It is not easy to scale anything else.
Especially have a script and rebuttals and stuff that all
That's
work with
it.
your system, you're good to go. So
Yes.
assuming you have all of those things, I'm assuming Peter that
Yeah, of
work at a,
course.
I mean, or you wouldn't be selling that product. So who's the market you're looking for? Who can you help? If our listeners are listening, of course, I hope they are, or it's just droning on in the background. Our listeners currently, most of them business owners. Who can you help the most?
My focus has been on the industries that I've had experience in, which is home services. So up
Okay.
until now, it's mostly been focusing on solar, roofing, and HVAC.
Okay.
However, a call center is a call center is a call center. There's not the only thing that limits you from changing industries to something totally different is just the script. That's real. I mean, of course, I'm making it sound overly simplified, and of course, there's a little more nuance to it. But to simplify things, really, it's just get a different script and start calling. So the reality of it is, like, look, we've built out call centers for real estate investors, realtors, mortgage guys, and insurance people. So we've already built them out for those 4 other industries, and I could just as easily take it to just about any other industry where making a cold call makes sense. As long as a cold call makes sense in your industry, then a call center makes sense in your industry. And once you have the fundamentals down of a call center, and this is the best part, by the way, this is where I get super excited when I'm talking to business owners. And anyone who's like a true entrepreneur is never stuck in their one business. Everyone has shiny object syndrome, and I'm sure you do too. You just said you have ADHD, so I know your shiny object syndrome is probably as bad as mine sometimes. The hardest thing you have to do is shut that part of your brain off so that you can focus on the thing that's right in front of you instead of getting veered off to 1,000 different directions. But that's part of what makes us so unique and such special little snowflakes, right?
Right. We're our own little unique brand of
We're our own
snowflake.
little brand of
100%.
snowflake, So, but that's what makes us unique is that we've always got our eyes, we're always interested in other little opportunities. And that's where a call center is so goddamn magical, is that once you do find something new that you decide you want to get into, you now own the machine that can go generate leads for that new thing that you're excited about. You don't have to wonder, well, how am I going to get leads? Like, no, I already got the call center. I just got
Yeah.
to push a button, get a new
And
script.
you're prepared, by the way, to kind of scale with. So if somebody has and just likes using you and outsourcing to you, you're prepared and able to scale with.
Hell yes.
All
That's
right.
what I love to do. That's where I get excited the most is if I could do nothing else, I would love to just be a consultant to
Yeah.
help people grow businesses. I just don't know how to I just have never found a way to do, well, I guess I
Yeah.
did find here. I guess this is my thing. But like in a perfect world, if I could just start all over again in my life, I would just be a business growth consultant where I would just help people just open up their minds to new ways to grow their businesses. That's what I love to do. But I've realized like I can't, that's too vague. So like I've got to find something that's more specific to harness. And it just happens to be this, right? At the moment. It might change later, but at
Sure.
the moment it's definitely call centers. And so that's what I love so much about it is like because you just said it yourself, like every single business on the planet, there's not one business that goes, you know what I'm good on? Leads. I don't need any more leads.
Right. Yeah.
I'm good on
Everyone
leads.
needs that. 100. It's the
Right?
number
No
one
one's ever
thing.
said, no, I'm good on leads. I don't need any more
Yeah.
of those.
Yeah.
We're,
Right.
we're all set in that department. Thanks. Like no one's
100%,
ever said
man.
those words. And so that's the beauty of this is like if you decide like, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to go start doing water treatment or I'm going to start doing lawn care, like whatever, right? Fill in the blank. You already now own the lead generation
Yeah.
machine that could help that business expand and grow and become successful. You already own it.
Well, to your point, a call center is a call center is a call center. It could be where it could work in anything. So, Peter, speaking of which, I want to make sure that if they do want to utilize your services, where can they find you? How do they call you? How do they get you? Your Facebook, social media, phone, anything, all of the
Sure.
above.
So I think my probably the easiest, if you want to find me and message me, it's probably Facebook. I think that's where I kind of tend to live the most. And my URL is just facebook.com/official Peter Roth.
Official Peter Roth, spelled
Mhm.
exactly like it sounds,
Exactly like
ROTH.
it sounds.
Any
PETER
other?
ROTH. Yep. My phone number, if you want to text me anytime, feel free to shoot me a text. That's the easiest. Call me. Yeah, it may take forever for me to call you back. So just text me. If you want to text me, 720-709-2090.
And lastly, I believe you had a website that you wanted to mention as well.
I do, yeah. So if you want to like read about, kind of what we do for call center stuff, it's solar branded right now. So don't be put off by that because we can, like I said, we can do it for any industry. But for right now, it's solar branded. So if you want to go to my website, and we'll put this link in the description somewhere, but it's getsolarwise.com/solar dash call dash center. Solar call center with a dash in between.
Excellent.
The link will be in the
Wonderful.
description.
Guys, go check my guy out. Let's Peter, actually, honestly, I'd probably want to set something up and talk to you as well. But if you're
Sure.
listening, I know you're in the industry. Check them out, utilize them. Let us know what you guys think. And look, don't forget, if you have questions for Peter or myself, make comments on whether you see this on YouTube or any of the streaming platforms that you're listening to us on. One, we'll answer them, and two, it's how people see and find the show. So if you like it, leave a comment, like, subscribe, leave a review, all that jazz. Guys, we love you, and we'll see you next time.